Welcome to Coach SG and Friends, where we discuss topics that help you have a better relationship with yourself and others. I am Coach SG, otherwise known as your joyful friend. I'm a relationship coach and life mentor, an entrepreneur and speaker. I'm based out of Los Angeles, but originally from Brooklyn, New York. I love great music, deep conversations, and inspiring people to live their best emotional lives and create their most amazing love story. Let me introduce you to my two friends, Janessa Rose and Lisa Miranda. Janessa is the CEO of Motivational Monsters, a nonprofit that helps people activate mental health and emotional well-being through creative arts. She is the author of How to Stop Being an Effing Bum. BUM stands for Broken Urban Mentality. She's been dubbed the Tony Robbins / Cardi B of motivational speakers, and she calls herself the Galactic Goddess. Lisa Miranda is an actor and creative director. She's also dabbling in producing. She is based in Miami, New York, and Paris. She is a world traveler who speaks several languages, who loves life, good people, and good conversation. So we want to welcome you to our podcast. Let's get started. Welcome back, ladies. Welcome back. So happy to see you. I feel like we've been gone forever, and I'm so happy to be back home. And so happy to be talking to you guys. Lisa, you are where?
I'm in Cabo Verde, west coast of Africa.
Oh, nice. I love it. I love it. I can't wait till I can go visit. And I'm back home in Palm Desert, and Janessa's coming to you from
Brooklyn, baby. That's why you hear all that city. You hear all that city life around us. Good old UPS trucks.
Hey.
So today we're going to be talking about how to get an ex out of your system. And, you know, there's different types of situations that go on, but we can just kind of talk about this, and anybody can, you know, bring up any personal situations that they know of, you know, not personally, but maybe somebody that they know. So how do you get an ex out of your system?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is try to engage less. And that could be really hard. And I know sometimes you might want to talk to them, or something reminds you of them and you want to, it's difficult. Something I think is really useful is once you've decided to stop, to not look for updates in their life, whether it be on social media or through mutual friends, but making sure that you really start creating the boundaries and reinvesting your time and energy into yourself now that you guys aren't, that there's no future for you two.
Love that.
Absolutely. I agree. That's the main stain. That's the main stain. You gotta lessen the interactions. But some people can't do that because they have children. Some people can't do that because they go into business with their partners. They get debts with their partners. They have assets with their partners or with their exes. And that complicates. And then there's the famous.
Nope, that's different, Janessa. It's different. If you're checking their social media and their life updates, you don't have to know who they're going out with, where they're hanging out, if you guys have kids or work together.
Well, that is under a certain circumstance. Like, let's say, for instance, you and I are in a relationship and you're like, oh, we got a house together and we got kids together, but I ain't checking her media. That's you. But if I'm using the things like the house and the kids to be around you more, to try to see what you're doing, to put my projections onto you, I may not be over that. That just determines on who the person is and what level of emotional intelligence they're at. But not everybody's usually, some people use those things to attach, to stay in their lives. Some people move on and have new relationships, and the exes, like, I'm coming to get my kids, but when they come get their kids, they're like, yeah, you look good. There's ways, there's levels of things. So there's different aspects of this is all I'm saying.
True, understood.
Oh, that was the end of it. Thank you.
That's it. That's it. Your turn,
Cheryl. Pass the potato. Come on now.
I was just saying, because I thought you were going somewhere with that, because I like where you were going with it. I mean, there are different circumstances and you can't handle every situation the same. And I get what Lisa's saying. She's like, you know, you can still have contact, but you don't want to be following them, you know, on their social media and checking up behind them, because that's not going to help you get through anything. And I understand what you're saying, Janessa, like, you know, every situation is not the same. So you can't apply just like one brush to it. You know, like you said, there you might have assets, you may have family ties like kids and stuff. So you can't just kind of get them out of your system. But if it's something that's like, okay, you guys broke up, it's a clean break. I agree. You just can't like follow up on them, but you also have to just like, I don't know. I think you feel like you have to heal. I think that's the part that's hard, the healing part. We don't want to go through the healing process. And I think, you know, the only way that we can heal is by kind of letting them go a little bit. But sometimes it's different for everyone. I mean, if you go cold turkey, it might make you crazy, you know, or if you are, you know, you're just doing a little bit at a time. I think everybody's got a different way that they process this. And I don't think there's a right way or wrong way, but the best part is to heal yourself. And if you're still engaging in, you know, any kind of energetic connection, it's going to keep it alive. It keeps it alive. So you got to get rid of those wires. You got to get rid of that electricity that's going on.
So you just said one of the keys. You were like, the wires, you know, you got to cut the energy. So in the spiritual community, we say energy ties, soul ties. We want to cut the cords. Well, you know, in the spiritual community, it's looked at very much like your soul and this other soul, the ex, have made an agreement prior to coming into physical form, where you guys will connect in the world as people. And then for whatever it is, because we don't have the knowledge of why we're reconnecting, it's if things don't work, you guys are karmatic. You guys are a karma thing. There's something that needs to be healed, like what Sherelle is saying. But without that spiritual application and knowledge, right, you can't really do that. So people are cutting off these things, but they still have this energetic tie because the soul work is not done. So yes, you cheated on me. Yes, you stalked me. Yes, you did this. And those are valid human reasons for us to break up. But the spirit world is saying, those were the tests. You're failing. You guys are still connected.
But what is the soul work? What is that?
It's called the soul cutting the cord. It's cutting the cord. In the spiritual world, they believe that there's an energetic tie no matter what. And the only way that you can get rid of that is by renouncing the agreement of the spiritual connection. So it's kind of like, it sounds crazy, right? And I've tried this work. It doesn't work, right? It didn't work for me. It didn't work. I might have not been honest about what I wanted, right?
Yo.
Shit. But they say you gotta split the cord. So you have to do something called the cord cutting. It's basically just a renouncing of, I don't want to be with this person anymore. It's kind of like a prayer, like cut that shit off. I don't care. I don't want to do the work with them. I don't want them in my life. I don't want them in my energy frequency. And you got to do some cord cutting. It could be in 20 million ways. You could write a note to yourself. You can burn the shit. You can light a candle, all types of shit people do about it, right? When I did this, every part of me was like, I want to cut this cord. I want to cut this cord. And let me tell you something. I did not want to cut that cord. I did not know how to get my ex out my system. I recreated a new, healthier way to keep him in my system. Because I realized there's an agreement, it's bigger things, it's this energy aura, it's the sharing, is the same as you put two plants in a garden, they start to feed off of each other's oxygens or whatever the hell's stuff. We're like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard to get the exes out the system unless you really do the work. The work is bigger than the physical. The ego is going to tell us, you hurt me, I hurt you, we no good for each other. And there's a valid reasons on the surface. But if there's things in a spiritual sense that you don't feel like they're out the system, you got to start taking notice into that energy and say, what is that energy? How do I move through that energy? The only way I was able to get my ex out my system is recreate a place for him to stay. We're not just exes. We're not just lovers that didn't work out. There's a bigger thing. There's a bigger project. It's spiritual. It's valid. It's honorable. And we have to figure a way through it so this doesn't feel heavy for us, because he's just as keeping me in his system as I keep him in mine.
I actually heard about this before because a girl told me once to do a meditation on cutting the umbilical cord between me and somebody. And she said that that would help get the person out of my life. I may not have done it well either because it took like another couple of years to get the person out of my life. But I do know why, because I felt very responsible for the person's feelings. It's before I knew that I wasn't responsible for other people's emotions and how they process things. So even though I was breaking up and I was, you know, I was doing all of this to indicate that I didn't want a romantic relationship, I felt so worried about this person just being in pain and feeling terrible that I never, you know, like I still was in it. I was just like, okay, then it's not, there's no intimacy, but I'm still spending time, or, you know, I'm not going to see the person all the time, but I'll still answer the calls. So it just dragged on for a really long time because I was so sure that I needed to spare this person from feeling bad.
That was your spiritual work, sis. That was you having, he was used, all he was he was used to help you through that thing. Because that serves you now on many levels in life where you're like, it's just not my responsibility, right? Yeah. He was a part of that practice. He was a part of that work. And you served him. What you served him in, we don't know. That's his walk with the universe. That's his walk with the creator. That's his work with himself and his soul and his higher self. So you might have taught him a lesson. We don't know what that is. We don't have him here, but he worked as that. So once that's all that is. And these are the agreements, because we all know we don't have one boyfriend, one lover, one girlfriend. We had several already. These people are all agreements that we have to work through our spiritual life and experience as humans to get our souls to these levels of higher intelligence, to, like Sherelle says, move up the emotional scale. You know what I'm saying? Or like, who is it? Abraham says, but Sherelle be coining Abraham. So yeah.
Yes, I do.
We love Abraham over here. But you know what I'm saying? That's what all of this, we listen to so many things outside of ourselves that feed our energy to help support us along these ways as we're having these connections with people. And our exes, that's really what they are. We look in the material world, and the way society conditions us is, you hurt me, victim, 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 victim. And if we stay on that surface level, we will everybody's valid.
I think, and I agree with all that. I think the hardest part is knowing how to get through it. You know, that's the hardest part. Like, you know, that's what we get afraid of. That's what we want to avoid. We want to avoid hurting people's feelings, and we want to avoid them hurting our feelings. And I think the most important part is, you know, in order to get these, you know, ties, is that you've got to nurture yourself first. You know, like you were saying, Lisa, like you were feeling bad and you were feeling guilty, you know, about the situation. So, you know, thoughts have a electrical charge and emotions have a magnetic charge. They bring it back to you. So when you're still sitting in those emotions, you're bringing those back to you, you know? So what you want to do is nurture yourself. Like Janessa was saying, I say, and Abraham says, you want to get yourself up the emotional scale so that you're not bringing this charge is not happening as much, right? So that's one part of it. I think the other part is, you know, you got to rewire that, you know, you got to rewire, you know, all that electromagnetic shit that's happening. You got to rewire that stuff. So you got to have new images, you know, that you're thinking of. You got to have new feelings, but that takes time. You know, you can't get from that one day and then the next day. It's not like a checkoff list. It's really about like where you are in the process. And there could be, you know, really, like Janessa was saying, it could be cheating, there could have been violence, there could have been all this stuff that, you know, to get yourself up the emotional scale might take a little bit of time, and it may be a little bit at a time. But once you know, start to do that, then you're able to get some new images, get some new feelings about the situation. Because like Janessa was saying, if you stay in that victimhood and you feel like, you know, you're blaming them and you're like, you know, they did this to me, you're staying stuck in that space that you used to be, and you're still creating that same dynamic with that person. So you got to change the dynamic. So if you want them out, you got to either do something to release them, or you got to do something to change how you're relating to them. You got to create a new dynamic. So she was saying, I changed how I wanted him in my life. So she had to change how they were relating to each other and take themselves out of this like you're my ex and you hurt my feelings, and you know, you got to tell yourself a new story, so you get new images and you get new emotions as well.
What you
Yeah.
just said was so dope. You said the emotions are magnets. And what did you say? You said, oh, is a laser thought.
Thoughts are electrical, and feelings are magnetic charge.
That was such a bar. That is such a bar, and it's so true. This is what, if we're at the point where we got to tell our listeners, and we tell each other, because we're also holding space for each other all the time. Like, if in order for you to understand, you gotta get knowledgeable. You gotta understand how this works. You gotta understand how, as a human, your brain operates. All this knowledge, learning about spiritual chords and all these other optional ways and insights to look at this work. You're now giving yourself an arsenal of tools. And when you do that, you have to apply the tools. You can have all the tools, but if you ain't hammering shit in to keep shit together, your house is going to fall apart. You know what I'm saying? So this is very important, what you just said about the magnetic. Oh, I never heard of that before. I've never heard it like that. And when you
okay, so you know where I get that from. Is Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Oh, okay.
So because, you know, as you're recreating your life, you know, you've got to know that your thoughts are electrical, right? So it's part of your vibration and your charge, the feelings bring that stuff back to you. So if you're in pain.
So poetic.
Yeah.
So for me, that is like, even though it's science, it's poetic to me. I'm like, oh, right. It's so beautiful. Yeah. Oh man, that's so beautiful. And it's so powerful. And this is why we have to educate ourselves and apply these things in our lives. And that's the scary part. How we want to know ahead of time how it's just going to look, but you have to do the work first. And that's what makes it scary. A lot of our exes, a lot of our situations, this is science. It's habitual. That's the reason why your brain and the electrical current of your thoughts is important, because you've spent so much time. It's the same as affirmations. We all believe in affirmations. I'm sure our viewers do. We teach it to you guys. And even if we mentored you or something like that, we tell you about affirmations. It's the same thing. The same way you're saying, I am a millionaire, I am healthy, I am this, I am that, whatever your affirmations are, is the same thing. If that rule applies to making your life better, it's also going to apply to you getting over your ex. So the same, like what you're saying, Sherelle, like, all right, I got to constantly remind myself. You have to constantly speak. I am healed. I am this, I'm that. I still, even though I have changed my story, I still battle the habitual, you hurt me, you owe me an apology. You never apologize. Every day I have to wrestle that thought, like, ain't you weak yet? Get down.
What you just said about it being habitual, that really resonates with me, because I was just thinking about how when you are out of a relationship, you have some residue of dependence still, and it's easy to want to ask them for help in an area that they normally would help you in, if it's doing something at the house, or help with some kind of financial literacy thing, or it could be anything in the world. And I think the more you continue to ask for help or take the help, I think it just continues to make you feel like, you know, that you're still kind of in a relationship, or at least it weakens all the other work that you're doing to get over the person and to move on.
That's because we really want them to help us through our heartbreak. Mm-hmm. What, you know, we can name it like, I need you to come fix the window. Can you come kill this bug? We could say whatever, right? But really what we're saying is, I'm in pain and I'm hurting and I need my partner to console me.
Yeah. And it's like what you were saying before, Janessa, it's habitual. They're used to somebody coming in and doing these things. They had a specific role in their life, you know, because we you know, if we're, I guess, trying to be equally yoked, right? There's something that you provide and there's something that your partner provides. And once, you know, you separate, you still want them to provide this, you know, value for you. Mm-hmm. But one of the things, and I learned this from Dr. Joe Dispenza as well, too, is that, you know, when we're in habits, you know, we are hardwiring our brain. So the more we do something, we hardwire our brain. And that's why it's so hard to get out of it. So if you've been doing this habit with this person, every day, it's going to be hard to just shift that tomorrow. You know, it's going to take some time. They're going to have to come over and fix some things. And then they walk away and you feel empty and you feel lost and you feel, you know, whatever. And you got to know, oh, okay, this is, I gotta do some work on myself. And that's the reason why when, you know, there's friction in family relationships or romantic relationship, there's work that you have to do. That's the only way you're going to change the dynamic. You cannot change them. You can only change yourself.
What is the work? Because, you know, you see people heartbroken, barely able to do basic things. So like even understanding what's the work to do. Like I have a friend who got out of a relationship and just, it's been like almost 2 years and she's still like really struggling, even with like like she's just devastated still, like mourning this relationship. But she's been doing retreats and she's been doing crying therapy and has a therapist and all that. So it feels like it's very unclear what the work is to do to heal. And I know it's different for everybody, but is there any template?
I don't know if there's a time limit. Like, you know, we feel like people should be over it in a certain amount of time. I don't know. It could have been her first relationship. It could have been the first time she was vulnerable. It could be, it brought up all kinds of, you know, past traumas. So we can't really decide like it should take 30 days, it should take 2 years. She's trying to get out of it instead of making peace with it. You know, it's not about getting out of it. Like, let me see what I can do to get these feelings out. No, you need to process those feelings. You need to understand them. You have to understand why you're in so much turmoil so you can understand how to get yourself up the emotional scale. If you don't understand what's happening to you and why you feel so devastated, it's going to be hard for you to look for hope and, you know, to look for a better feeling. You're just going to be like, I just got to get over this thing. No, you don't have to get over this thing. You have to make peace with it. You have to look at it and say, you know, this hurts. This is fucked up. This feels horrible. I don't like the way it feels. I feel broken. But once you start to get yourself up the emotional scale, that's the work, you know, that's the big work that you have to do. That's the hard part. Being able to every day, like look at that little thermostat and go like, I'm just going to get a little bit of degree better and better and better. But trying to just get out of it is going to be too hard to do.
Yeah. And what will happen is she will replace things to fulfill her in that area. The thing about the emotions is our emotions are like a vehicle. Society, especially our culture, it teaches us to like reject and neglect and push away from the emotions, but your emotions are the vehicle that's going to get you to the next level. We have them and they're not against us. We have this idea of no feelings. That is the worst thing that humans can do. This is why we are so behind in so many levels. We're not supposed to do that. The emotions are important and they're the compass to where we have to go next. So that's number one. And like Sherelle said, it's not about getting over it. It's about getting through it. She has to go through it. She cannot stay. It really depends on, there's no template in time. Because also another thing, like what Sherelle said, like what's triggering her. She may be thinking she's working through or working on the pain from him, but really it's something else. It could be a couple of things. You know what I'm saying? So she could be using the wrong tools to build, like we were saying, you know what I'm saying? You have these tools, but if you're like, nah, I don't like this tool because this tool is too heavy and it makes me feel this way, that's emotion, really. The tools are your emotions. So she doesn't like this feeling. That's really a tool that she needs in order to build this foundation. And she's like, I'll use a screwdriver because it's easy, but it doesn't help. Her whole shit is going to crash down again. This is why, you know what I'm saying? So she has to take accountability for her own shit. If she's focusing on what was done to her, then she's working ass backwards. No offense.
So I would ask you, Lisa, does it feel like this would apply to that situation or is something different?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. I mean, it's also, you know, it also sucks being someone's friend and not being able to help them more. You know, like, I think understanding that people have to go through their own process. And I know for me, because I used to love to get involved and offer that unsolicited, you know, advice and ultimately I would get frustrated because I can't solve someone else's problem. They need to go on whatever journey that they're on. So it's new for me to be an outsider, knowing that all I can say is, no, I mean, good luck. Not just good luck. I say other things, but I just kind of hands off.
Yeah, I think everybody's at a different place, and it's like all you can do is you can listen and you can see if what tools that she's using, you know, to make life better for herself. You know, you get to just be compassionate because there are people that you know, relationships are like a school, right? And some people are really good at math and some people it takes them a little bit longer, right? So we don't look at the people that takes it a little bit longer and be like, oh, you're so dumb. You don't do that. You just go like, do you have a tutor? Are there other ways that you can do it? You got to figure out what your tools are. And you know, and we can't decide what time that is for her because she may be going from caterpillar to butterfly and we don't know that. It looks like grieving. It looks like she's never going to get out of it. And she may get to a point where she's just like, you know what? So all those things probably are working. She just doesn't know that they're working, you know? Oh, and then I was going to say, the last thing, you know, because I think about, you know, you got to nurture yourself, you know, you got to change that hardwire. So you got to put in new images and new emotions. And I think lastly, it's about empowering yourself to be able to handle the situation. I think that's the thing that, at least for me, growing up or just being in situations, feeling like I'm not empowered enough to get through this. I'm feeling like this situation is going to hold me back and stop me from being my greatest self, or I've had some kind of rejection that now I've made that, you know, part of my insecurities. For what? You know, I take, if somebody rejects me, I take that as I'm not enough, which is stupid. You know, so if somebody rejects me, why should I feel like I'm not enough? You know, I got to know now, I got to have a different belief system. I got to adopt new beliefs that tells me, no, I'm not enough for them, but that doesn't mean I'm not enough. So I just have to find the place that I belong. I'm being redirected in some way.
You know, what you're saying is true, right? But then there's a flip side of it too, because, and sorry, but I'm going to say it. Women, especially women who do not do emotional and spiritual work, tend to believe that they can do whatever and it's okay. And they don't consider men. Men are expected to do so much more in relationships than women who are not working on themselves and respecting other people's energy. Like a man, it's a lot for them sometimes.
What if you have no man in your relationship?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's true. No.
So I think it's better to say, well, not better, but I think another way to say it is just the masculine, feminine energy, because I think that we decide how relationships are supposed to be. You know, however we have determined to relate to our partner is based on all the beliefs that we picked up. And at some point, we just got to find new beliefs to make things work. But go ahead with your.
No, you're right. You're definitely right. Let me rephrase it. When you're in a relationship and the dynamic is a feminine and a masculine energy, right? Whoever is the masculine, or whatever, it doesn't even matter. Whoever it is, if somebody leaves you, and you feel rejected, right? There's got to be reasons why they left you. It doesn't always have to be rejection means I'm not worthy, right? Some people get left because they disregarded the other person a lot. They expected too much of the other person. They did not take accountability for the insensitive, selfish, or immature decisions they made in past. It might have been a collective of things that occurred, and the other person may not even know how to approach it, and decided, I'm going to get out of this without, justifying all the reasons why. So before you just go off into the idea of I was left, this person hurt me, they did me wrong, there has to be a thought process of what could have I done different at certain times? When were the times that I did so on and so forth? Because what happens is you start to, if you're really doing work, you start to see, oh, wow, I might have hurt them when I was hurt. I might have disregarded them when I was in a different space. Well, you know, that's when you start to realize who you are and how do you approach things and how do you consider other people. It's always got to be, whenever we're doing assessment, first focus has to be on self, because then you can see where you did wrong or right. You know what I'm saying? It cannot always just be in the space of rejected, I'm hurt, and I'm not worthy. You have to do the work, because when you start to peel off layers, you might have felt at the moment they rejected you, you wasn't worthy. But when you peel off layers, you might start seeing, you know what? I'm fucked up. I did a lot of shitty things to this person. I did not, you know, sorry, it's my language, but I like, sorry. No, but you might look at it and say, you know what? I wasn't sensitive. I did used to come home and be drunk a lot. I did this. I did do that. Because there's things that men, you know, sorry. There's things that some people won't say to hurt the person they love. But little by little, they're turned off by it. And they don't even want to have the energy to fix you, because they're already at the emotional scale of, this is not what I want. I'm not responsible for their stuff and I'm out. I'm sorry. And a person at that level might be like, you hurt me, you left me, but you're self-sabotaging and it doesn't add to this relationship. And I don't have to tell you that, because I don't want to hurt you, because I care about you. So I'm just out, because it's not my responsibility. The other person could be leaving because you're the problem and you're stuck in this low level of emotional intelligence, just feeling victim. You have to consider what your behavior is like during the course of the relationship that led you to the split. Just not be victim because you got dumped. That's low level, immature, emotional like assessment.
Okay, I have a question. I was gonna say something, but I have a question, because I know this one girl, when she got dumped, because she was kind of an asshole, she got dumped and then she joined a new church. I think she got a trainer, but nothing was like, and she thought she was she could check off her list the things that she was doing to better herself, but she was still an asshole, you know. And it wasn't something like, you know, and it wasn't something that you could, I didn't feel like I had the vocabulary to explain, hey, the things that you're doing to improve yourself, like joining this new church and you know, and all the self-care, isn't really getting at the actual problem of why that person didn't want to be with you anymore. You know, like, and I think sometimes I've seen people just kind of go through a cycle of making improvements that are even a bit superficial, but not actually getting at the root. But who am I to say, hey, your problem is this and that and that? So I'm not sure how to be helpful in those situations, you know?
Yeah, I think it's hard for people to listen when you're being critical. It's just, it's too hard, you know? So you got to figure out how, you know, what we got to remember is that these people that they're in a relationship with are their teachers. We see it as a bad thing that, you know, especially, you know, obviously if there's violence, you know, there's other stuff that's different. But for the most part, they need to learn their lessons, and we step in and want to put our beliefs and our whatever on them. And I think they just need to learn, and they may learn differently than how we learn. And I think sometimes we just got to butt out unless we can offer compassion. We can offer them something that makes them think of things in a new way. But I know for me, if somebody, at least when they used to tell me that, oh, you're too sensitive, I can't listen after that, because no, I'm not too sensitive. I'm different from you. I'm processing different things different from you. I have different traumas. I have different things that activate me. So it may look to you that I'm too sensitive, but really it's about like, I don't know if that matters. You know, what are the tools to help me get better? You know, but telling me that I'm not enough or I'm not good enough or in some way, I just don't think people can listen from that place.
Yeah, it's really about the delivery though. I'm the friend who tells you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And I can be assertive about what I say, but I try not to judge. It's more like, for instance, I have a friend who is extremely sensitive. And when people tell her that, a lot of people always tell you too sensitive, you gotta stop crying. I tell her all the time, like, your superpower is feeling. Don't be, you know what I'm saying? It's okay if you're sensitive and you feel deeply. That is a gift, to feel deeply. So you just learn how to use it to your benefit,
Right.
not against you. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So there's just a certain way to really tell people, but in my opinion, honesty for your friends. If a friend is bringing you something to ask you your opinion or ask you for help, they need help. They need an outside perspective. And sometimes we be like, you know what? I don't. Nah, I tell you the truth. How you process that? You came to me. I ain't call you and ask you if you need my opinion. You asked me. I ain't tell you I know what's best. You think I know. You called me. So
And
it's
but
one.
sometimes I don't think people are asking. Sometimes I think people are just sharing what's happening with them.
Not
But
in,
I
not in the
think
form of a question. Not in the form
right,
of a
but
question.
I also think that sometimes they're coming and dumping the same story with the same and it frustrates you because not you, I'm just talking about in general,
Yeah.
I get you, where it's like, dude, you can't see, you can't see this, but that's not helpful and that's not going to teach them. So if I'm always in a place of I'm, a coach or the teacher, I want to empower them and I want to figure out what it is inside them that's going to help them listen to a new way of thinking. But I don't think one way is wrong. I think everybody learns differently, and some people are a sink and swim type of learner. They just want to be in the shit and figure it out as they go. And I'm not that kind. I like to go slow, get my feet in the water, get comfortable first.
Yeah, something else that Janessa was saying about when you're doing your assessment, I think it's also worthwhile to recognize that sometimes people leave because they have other stuff that they have unhealed that has nothing to do with you. Oftentimes I'll hear about people who got left because the person had still an attachment to an ex from whatever point in their life, or some stuff they just hadn't resolved and then they come back or whatever. So I think you might, of course it's important to do all that self-reflection, but making sure that you're not, you're giving yourself grace and showing yourself compassion too.
Yeah,
Love that.
100%. That's the main key, because you listen, we could feel pretty crappy when we break up with people, and like we were saying, to do assessments and everything. If somebody's assessment led them to believe, you know what, I shouldn't have been here. I shouldn't have left my last relationship. Let me work on that. That's their personal work. You know what I'm saying? And we might, because it didn't go our way, we might be in the space of they're this, they're that. I didn't deserve that. You know what I mean? And it's, if we had vision of the whole thing, it would make us messed up to keep another person by guilt or shame to stay in the relationship to secure the way we feel. So we don't have to feel like we got, left or whatever have you. So it's very important to consider assessing and the other person's assessment too. This is something that's so key. Like, if true love is really allowing the other person to be free, to have what they want, and that may look like not you. It's hard to accept that. That was one of the hardest things. Like, if I really, really love them, I would not be holding them here by guilt, by all the truths that are real to me. What? That was like foreign. But they hurt me. But I didn't get a chance to. But I never seen them in this light. Not your job.
And I love all that. And I think that the hardest part about like relationships is that we put time limits on it. It's the same with like death, right? We put time limits on how long we think people are supposed to be here. We put time limits on how long we're supposed to be in a relationship, instead of understanding that the universal laws are just working, and we can work with it or we can work against it. And if somebody comes to you and they say, I don't want to be with you anymore, they do it either in their actions or they do it in their conversation, we really got to let them be. We can't force things to happen. I think the hardest part is just going through the motions of letting people go, whether it's somebody who's transitioning or somebody who's decided they want to do something different. They need to learn a new skill set, and they can't learn it with you. They need to elevate their lives in some way, and they can't do it with you. Or maybe they don't want to grow and you're growing, and they can't. It just is no longer a match. And so we like feel like, no, but it's supposed to be. No, it's not.
So I gotta say something, Cheryl, what you just said, right?
Sure.
So they don't want to grow, but you know what I mean? So they leave you, right? Or whatever. What happened in a situation like that is the same way. Let's just for a second go into the spiritual world, right? Just so y'all can see what I'm seeing in my mind, right? This person and you have an agreement to come here to do this thing. You're like, oh my God, we're gonna grow, we're gonna grow, we're gonna grow. Yay, I love this partner, right? And they're like, oh my God, I'm scared to grow, right? They don't know it, but their soul is like, what? No, 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 no. So at that moment, you forcing them is gonna create the emotions of, I don't like this, it doesn't feel good. They're really in fear or whatever have you. And so what happens is they're resisting their lesson, their karmic agreement, this agreement of the soul tie. They're like, no. And so they're stopping the growth. This is the universe is going to delegate this correctly for them. But what happens is we personalize it. Anybody we connect with, there's a soul agreement. So whatever that work looks like, if this person's resisting the greatness and the growth, they're on the negative side of this dynamic. You know what I'm saying? So you got to just let the universe handle it.
I have a question about what you just said about this karma agreement, because I thought like when people are in your life at different times, it has more to do with where you're at vibrationally. Like, how are you attracting this person, right? So if you're with someone who's like complicated or messy, there's, you know, you're matching with them because this, you know, you guys are vibrationally, you know, cohesive. So how does that relate to these karma ties or soul ties?
So karmic ties and all of this is basically the concept of reincarnation. Your soul is not Lisa. Lisa's that physical pretty shell that the soul is in, right? And for your husband or your boyfriend or whatever, same goes for him. His soul is a soul in that physical body. That soul has been in many bodies. Lisa, this one, that one, so in all your lifetimes. And all these souls reconnect and doing work. You agreed to come here and help each other. So every boyfriend, every girlfriend, every sister, every mother, it's all agreements. Every one of them are agreements. They're all karma. You know what I'm saying? So in this concept, that's where that karmatic agreement and ties thing comes in. So when you come in, everybody has a lesson for each other. Everybody. You know what I'm saying? Just that we're not taught that. That's old ancestry, traditional knowledge. But we're not taught that in Western society. We're not. So, or through religion. Only like a Caribbean, old, ancient, occult, esoteric type knowledge. That's the belief. Y'all know I go left. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
But that's the concept of the karmic ties. So everybody has this agreement. Lisa and Sherelle and me and you, us three, we have an agreement. We have an agreement to do a project on Earth, some way, somehow. Who knows what we was doing in another time, in another world, in another place. We probably didn't get to do this and share this knowledge. We probably always had this desire or this purpose and this agreement to help humans or people or whatever it is or wherever we come from, raise their vibration. And whatever time we was in, we might have ancestry, we might have had people in our ancestry and all of this stuff working on all this shit. And here we are on Earth in this dimension in 2022, trying to fulfill that. This is our agreement. When we start going into, Janessa's too loud and annoying. Sherelle is too busy and this, and Lisa travels too much. And when we start going there, we're fucking up the karmic agreement. We're focusing on the things that judge each other, not realizing we're all on the same vibration with this agreement, because it's all frequency.
So here's what I think too, is that sometimes
I was about to go to the alien world.
And that's okay. Because the people that can resonate with, they're gonna get, and the people that they're like, what are you talking about? Well, what do I need to do in this situation? They may not be able to apply it. Doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that people are at different places in order to make this stuff palatable. But do you feel like your question was answered, Lisa?
I think so. But I have all these new questions, but I'll save them for next time.
But you know what I was going to say is that, you know, we make relationships really hard, and you know, relationships are, you know, how we engage with each other. And it's kind of like the relationship is the weather, right? We can't control the weather. We just have to get prepared for it, right? So if it's raining one day, we could be upset and we could be mad about it, or we can figure out what we need to do instead. What do we need to do in this day? Do we need to get an umbrella? Do we need to change our clothes? And relationships are like that. Instead, we complain like, oh my God, it's raining outside. I can't believe it's raining. You made it rain. I didn't make it rain. You made it rain. Well, make it rain sounds different, but you know what I mean?
That's right.
Instead of getting creative about how to get through it, we're in the problem of things. And when it comes to a breakup, it's the weather changed. The weather has changed. And you could sit at the window and cry about the weather. You can figure out how you can frolic in it. And that's what we don't do. We decide, we want to be in the feelings of everything. And the only way that we're going to change the weather is when we change how we're relating to it.
Bars. That was so well. I was like, when you were saying it, I heard like music. I was like, oh yeah, change the weather.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? We have to do this in all our relationships, with our families, with other people, that sometimes when there's friction, you got to figure out how you can switch. Because if you don't switch, you're going to just keep, reacting to the same stuff.
I have a question about what Janessa just said. So you just said you can still be in each other's lives, right? But when you have this strong emotional tie, this karmic agreement, you really feel like you're soulmates, but the other person doesn't want to be with you anymore. How can you still fulfill your part of that agreement? Or do you just have to yes, you let them go, but do you still pursue a friendship because you're supposed to have something in this life? Or no, you leave them alone because they've asked you to stop so they don't get a restraining order?
So it depends, because in my circumstance, I have not been asked to leave the person alone. The person had displayed in actions that they did not want to be or respect or honor the level of relationship that I required. So what I did was I interpret that as they need to be free to choose for themselves without guilt and shame, because that's not love on what they want. They chose a relationship of separation with us. I never have disrespected that or violated that boundary. He never said, I don't want to be with you. I left the relationship because my needs were not being met. So I let him make his choices. He could have chose to say, I can't live without you. I want to be with you. And he didn't. So I just created boundaries for myself that didn't hurt me. Janessa, you cannot call him because his rejection hurts. Janessa, you cannot check on him because it's not your business what he's doing. And he cannot consider you and how you're going to feel, because that's not love. And so on and so forth. And, things like that. I did all the work on me. Then I separated. When I got into a healthy enough space to say, how does this feel? You know what I mean? I could be mad at him. I could be angry. None of those things felt good. So what I did was just keep my boundaries, set my boundaries, and change the story. I want to be with him. I am with him because I want for him to want what he wants. I want for him to have what he wants. That's me being with him. When he does great things, I'm proud of him because I'm with him. When he needs me, he can call me. I'm available with boundaries. No, you cannot do certain things to me because you don't want to marry and honor me. That's why you can't do those things. I don't even have to explain that. He already understands how to talk to me because I've set these boundaries. So now we're able to be in this relationship and have one another for the things that matter. When he needs a friend, when he needs guidance, when he needs empowerment, when he needs those things, I'm available. When he decides to have relationships, I don't go cross. I don't call for him. Because his actions had showed me he doesn't want me in that way. So I am there in the ways that I can be there that don't hurt me and that don't hurt him, because that is love. And that is me honoring and solving the karmic thing. What am I doing here with him? Why do I feel so strong to have him? It's karmic. So I got to honor it. How does it feel good? I have knowledge on spiritual stuff. I have knowledge on science shit. I have knowledge on relationship matters. I take it all and I assess my situation. This is what feels good. How can I show up for him without sacrificing self? How do I this? How do I that? That's all it is. It's a balance. It's a balancing act. And he still crosses the line sometimes. The other day he flirted with me. I was just like, I'll call you later. That's it. But that's him and his journey, not my business. I could sit here and be like, oh my God, he flirted with me. We on our way back. And then we never get back. And I'll be like, oh, hurt again. My job, not his. So it's all about assessing. And I am still with him because it's about the spirit. It's not about the physical. Remember, we're just here temporarily. As Janessa Rose, I'm only going to be here for no more than 100 years, if that, right? You know what I'm saying? If that, it's temporary. And in spirit world, time is not linear. It's all occurring right now. So his thing and his attraction to me and my attraction, we're both now on an energetic match. We don't know what to do with each other emotionally, but we do know it does not feel good without having each other. So we keep each other in the ways that work. And that's it.
I love it.
Our systems, because the topic was getting our exes out of our systems. Our systems have wirings that you have to know first. In order for you to learn how to cleanse and detox your system, you got to learn what parts of things go and what parts of the system. You got to learn the system and you got to go inside of the system. You can never change that system from outside with outside things. You cannot use outside influences to change the inner energy. So you have to do the work inside. The system it's deeper. It's way deeper. So do the work, find your assessments and find a way that it feels good to keep or release the person in your connection.
I love it.
I gotta go.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Connecting. I hope that we gave you some tools. And so remember, we have this episode every Tuesday, unless we have other stuff to do. So pretty much it's every Tuesday. And you can find us on YouTube if you want to see us, or you can listen to us on the podcast. But thank you so much, my joyful friends. That's our show. Thank you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe and leave a review. Share this episode with someone you think would get some value out of it. We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Bye-bye now.